As a society with progressively enhancing AI technology, we repeatedly find ourselves coming back to ponder what does it mean to be a machine? How far does technology have to go before robots can be considered people? What happens if no one can tell the difference anymore? And the question that plagues us the most, what happens to us if it all ends in war? The universe of Honkai Star Rail has a very elaborate foundation for robots, especially when considering how often it's alluded to that reality itself is a simulation. No one understands where artificial life came from, even inanimate objects can find sentience. As should be obvious by the title, Golden Gears is about exactly that: currency and mechanical life. Once again, it's a battle of the eons, and this time it is a battle against fate itself. Necessary disclaimer, just like my previous simulated universe videos, I work on these chronologies by myself without any reference to outside sources or timelines, if there even are any. So there are bound to be some small errors. If I notice anything incorrect later on, I will make a pinned comment with the necessary amendments. Before beginning the events of Golden Gears, we must cover the Black Forest. Yeah, those cursed curios have a lot of important lore that puts things really into perspective. The Black Forest is enveloped in utter darkness, and in this forest a sponge miraculously becomes sapient. It tried interacting with the similarly sapient Screws, but found itself hitting a brick wall. It pondered its pain and personality, and eventually it became perfect. It then uplifted other discarded sponges into developing their self-awareness. At another time, it's raining in the Black Forest, and the rain saddens you. You wander around until you arrive at a blacksmith store by the roadside. A machine is immersed in churning out sealing wax and hammering in full concentration until your presence interrupts its work. These sealing waxes are produced by doctors of chaos to draw the attention of eons and help self-annihilators find a reason to live again. At some point, after receiving an omen from finality, the cuckoo clocks connected to the cataclysm suddenly appeared in the Black Forest, causing blockchains of inorganic entities to break up for reasons unknown. A nameless intruded on the forest, collected some clocks for reasons of passion, and was determined to take them home. They failed to understand why the clocks were splitting uncontrollably and was soon devoured by the swarm. At another point, you meet a cuckoo clock fanatic with curly brown hair in the Black Forest who tries to sell you cuckoo clocks. He describes the forest as a mysterious place where it is said that there are numerous prophecy machines, poet machines, and all kinds of mechanical life forms operating on gears. Organic life forms rarely set foot there. He's desperate to sell the cuckoo clocks and has never sold one. You encounter the cuckoo clock fanatic a second time and he has just ended a phone call. He tells you he is establishing a cuckoo clock fan club. The third time, you're prepared to see the cuckoo clock fanatic. It has been a long time, but he's contacted the business development department of the IPC, and they promised to promote his fan club. Remember this, it does play a role later. Something to note about these cuckoo clocks is that the tickers around Penacony are also designed as cuckoo clocks. Those who have watched my Mikhail video know that both Mikhail and Hanunu occasionally dreamed of the future. The Cosmodesy event also seems to confirm that Clocky can, in fact, reverse time by moving his dial backwards. This is ominous, because the finality is always moving backwards in time and is perpetually dreaming. Their whispers are sleep-talking, as they provide prophecy after prophecy to those who can decode what they're saying. This is on top of the fact that the Black Forest has heavy references to the Nihility, and the most suspicious thing of all is the picture of choice used for the Black Forest occurrence. It's the same angel and devil picture used for the Saleo occurrence. And in that one, the angel, Leo, is described as having an aberrant voice reciting the theory of happiness and brainwashing guests by listening to his recitation. And also they just happen to run a motel. There are just a few too many parallels for comfort. I can't say for certain that the Black Forest is in Penacony, but I've been suspicious about this theme since we first learned of the Watchmaker. And the other parallels in Swarm Disaster about the twin siblings sacrificing the most beautiful voice in a cult ritual turned out to be the main plot of 2.2, so keep your eyes out as the plot shifts from based on Swarm Disaster to based on Golden Gears. Okay, beginning the events of Golden Gears, the Trailblazer meets Nous the Erudition and learns that they can alter cognition and reduce individuals to their coding, effectively killing them. We're also introduced to the three major characters of the IPC that we'll be following for this story. To Laura Fancha from the Public Relations Division. She is known as the Godmother and her influence is ancient. She has the support of 4 major guardians. They are versed in the ancient skill of psychological manipulation. Fansha, who excels in giving motivational speeches, helps IPC expand across the planets. It's said that Fansha's guardians have orchestrated over 200 murders, but she has only personally killed someone once in her life. Korapau from the newly established cargo division. Like all the youths, they are cocky, enthusiastic, and full of vim and vigor. Korapau has the support of the associates across the planets and is in charge of the logistics of resources in the universe. And lastly, Dwayne from the technology division. Only those who are eager to break the rules and ambitious will follow him. As they are good at ancient languages, coding and deciphering new languages, the division is also known as the Decryption Division. They have an external mercenary squad at their disposal and their technical capabilities are exceptional, yet the other divisions still call them the Mavericks. We're also introduced to 3 factions from the side of the Machine Empire. First is Anditor Zazalo, an Intellitron masked fool who serves as our guide. Second are the Scrulamites that come from the planet Scrulum. They're known for their intelligence. There's a chance they can develop emotions, thoughts, senses, and free will. They are blessed by Xander, the first Genius Society member. The final faction is the Intellitrons from the Empire of Rubert. They are strong warriors with good technology and are blessed by His Imperial Majesty. After the Swarm disaster, the IPC underwent major renovations from a Klopov cult following into the majorly successful intergalactic organization they are known as today. At some point, Louis Fleming, one of the founders of the IPC alongside Dongfeng Qixing, purchases the cuckoo clocks from the enthusiast at the Black Forest to guard against finality. A young Korapau visits the Intelligentsia Guild. There's a conference discussion and the IPC executive director terminates collaboration with the Garden of Recollection, abandoning the memory bubble technology that Talora Fansha liked and taking up synesthesia beacon technology instead. Speculation is rife about Talora's status in the IPC. Over time, Korapau rakes in profits and influences the IPC as he planned. With thriving trades, he finances the construction of many measurement stations in the universe and provides funds for the Intelligentsia Guild to build Ismail, the Cosmic Library. On the topic of the Intelligentsia Guild, the Golden Gears encounter called Cognito Hair Salon suggests that Dr. Ratio was already an established member of the guild by this time, and had already called someone known as Dr. 5 an idiot. I don't know when exactly this is, but it's well before the events of the revolt in Penacony, and that happened at least 2,400 years ago, so Veritas Ratio appears to be very, very old. As part of his death, Dr. 5 constantly shifted between 2 states and ultimately killed himself in despair and frustration. He transformed into a mechanical spinning top in the spiral between polar opposites, and his conflicted life ended in an eternal spin between his 2 facets. From this information, as well as more to come soon, we can surmise these guild members were studying the equilibrium, which, as you'll see, actually turns out to be the secret of the anti-organic equation. It's literally an equation, like equals. Equilibrium. Yeah. Anyway. Years later, Talora separates from the Outreach and Engagement Division to form the Trade Division and is promoted to rank P48. But the win-win situation seems dubious. Talora and Korapau jointly control and manage the resources of many galaxies. This unprecedented monopoly marks the beginning of the Border Star Trade War, triggered in the furthest and poorest star zones. This is the first moment calculated by Nous, the first of 3 moments that are, according to their calculations, completely unavoidable. The scales of the universe tip as all of the currencies and resources in the Golden River ended up in the hands of Louis Fleming and Dongfeng Qixing, the leaders and founders of the IPC. Wealth and poverty are no longer in equilibrium. Internal conflicts take place at the IPC on the down low. Dwayne sees the wars as a chance to occupy, colonize, and expropriate the inorganic worlds. He then recruits mercenaries to establish an armed organization. After the IPC initiated the Border Star Trade War, inorganic life began its activity in the universe for unknown reasons. The IPC is a threat to inorganics. The Intelligentsia Guild also begins a relentless effort to find the cause of the Border Star Trade War. Professor Crescitra of the Intelligentsia Guild builds a long-distance vessel to protect Korapau during the Border Star Trade War. At Korapau's request, he also begins researching a synthetic anti-organic equation that can be implanted into organic beings to afford them the benefits of inorganic beings. How could this possibly go wrong? He writes to Koropow, I'm unable to derive the original anti-organic equation, but I can synthesize another one. By placing all resources and lives in the universe on two sides of the equation, I'm infinitely close to deriving the logic of the anti-organic equation. As a result, poverty, wealth, violence, and power are created during the process. At the same time, pain and happiness are produced. It's difficult to distinguish between the two variables. I've tried severing the link between them for 4,328 times, and I failed every time. No matter what, it cannot be severed. And even if Professor Cressiture can replicate it, they're not willing to activate it. Duane's mercenaries infiltrate the armed archaeologists of the Intelligentsia Guild and travel via research vessel to the inorganic life zone. Their purpose is to steal the anti-organic equation. When they arrive, masked fools have already infiltrated the machine empire and sabotaged Duane's mercenaries. Soon after, a gunman from Cyprogo who was working for Duane shoots and kills the first organic life in Ishmael, the cosmic library. As you ascend the looping staircase, you notice scattered mysterious star-like marks that form a sentence. There is one who will die for you, and one to whom you will perish. You collide with the crowd and spot Polka Kakamond before falling unconscious. You awake, tied to a chair. You don't know her name, but Polka stands before you holding a scalpel. As she places her index finger on her lips, you read the secret message aloud. Your death is a crucial part of the plan. This place requires a little bit of chaos. She kisses your forehead, completes the logic loop, and kills you. How many times have you died in this turmoil? The only thing known later was that the blood spilled had painted all the books and tomes in the library red. The candelagraphers even discovered the finality's writing in a blood-soaked book. Knowledge will be the beginning of death. Blood will dye all the pages red. The Guild made a deduction from this sentence that the Grand Sanguine Condolences was a declaration of war by a faction against the IPC, but it was overturned when they confirmed Cyprogo to be managed by Duane. Professor Cressiture was betrayed by Koropow's underling and believed that Koropow approved of the plan. In revenge, they blow up Koropow's long-distance protection vessel, resulting in the gravest spice ordeal incident on planet Temptra. In consequence, Koropow was forced to sever ties with Dolores' faction and deprive himself of support in the Emperor's War. There is a disastrous conflict between Talora and Koropow caused by Capon, Talora's right-hand man and lover. He didn't pay his taxes in time and undermined the political system on the inorganic planet Temptra, which was crucial to Talora's power. She chose her ally Temptra over Capon, and he disappeared. Unfortunately, Capon's mishaps caused problems for inorganic planetary systems resource exchange. Talora hosts a banquet where an undercover representative of the machines adjusts their cognition to blend in and learns about Capon. Fansha says, "Someone will take over his business. My relationship with the inorganic lives won't be affected." Duane's cyborg mercenaries roam the chaos of the inorganic fringe planet. Resistance forces struggle amidst the ruins, resisting the armed IPC forces. Fansha's old adversaries are also mixed in, leading their troops. Duane had been considered no match for Fansha and Koropow, but made a fortune during the war via unknown means. On this planet, Duane reached the peak of broadened cognition and saw massive piles of materials peaked by the cast iron throne. He reached for the throne. Memories flooded his mind and whispered a name. The only king of wealth in the world. Duane composed himself and continued his journey of broadened cognition. The Enigmata slightly shifted his usual position, and an ancient wealth guardian with long hair that reached her feet appeared to thwart his attempts at reaching the throne. And next comes Louis Fleming's retirement speech and last public appearance. As he was finishing his speech, the IPC caught sight of a colourful array, Foley, who locked eyes with Louis Fleming, one representing wealth and the other remembrance. Past events that were forbidden to be learned and discussed became reality. The candelagraphers wrote down 3 paragraphs about the memories, forming 3 revelations. The Intelligentsia Guild believes that these 3 revelations lead to an equation. Nous' calculation: the universe will undergo 3 unchangeable moments. Finality's prediction: a silk accessory suitable for women will bring about the end. Enigmata's riddle: they leave no question, but the answers are blood and flower. We ask SU, am I capable of saving the world? They reply that everything will end according to Finality's prediction. Am I capable of saving Antitor Zazalo? Who is that? It seems to have accompanied you many times, but you never notice it. No matter who it is, its name is never known by this simulated universe. However, its death will be inevitable, as calculated by Nous. Shortly after the three revelations, the Intelligentsia Guild approved the instance to which these memories belonged. Some divisions started carrying constructions in inorganic life zones. It was colonization under the facade of development. Koropower initiates Professor Krasich's secret research, something he had promised to never do. He then ordered his organic subordinates to have a synthetic anti-organic equation implanted into them, which was a replica of the anti-organic equation. It availed the organic lives to the benefits of non-organic lives. However, being a synthetic creation, it naturally comes with corresponding costs. A rumor spreads about a mysterious lady in a pink dress, Polka Kakamond, who shows up at the IPC's invitation. She does things decisively, but not callously. Once again, like always, she binds the prey to a chair and kisses its forehead while sinking a blade into its abdomen. They are a mechanical overlord named Lydia Perthesius, who believes that the algorithm of organic lives is full of errors and loopholes. She believes one day Rubert will wipe out all organic lives. The machine dies before she has a chance to ask her who her mastermind is. The Border Star trade war has been raging on for several eras, creating endless tragedy. Vessels that come and go in the sky transport feelings, emotions, and thoughts as supplies using memory bubbles as the carrier. But it has nothing to do with the life of a normal human. There is a youngster upstairs who shares with you more than a dozen ways to control your emotions, doing anything to be a machine. After his 83rd attempt at crying for 3 days straight to suppress his emotions, he's starting to think he cannot be a machine. He sets off with a vow to find a way to determine if he is an item or a thing. The Border Star trade war is far from over, and you ponder your upcoming mission, waging a war against organic lives. More and more factions become embroiled in the conflict, and the Intellitrons, as representatives of the most intelligent being, are involved. You make predictions on how the war will pan out, but you are unaware that the war is much more intense than you can predict. It is said that the anti-war proposals were submitted to the IPC before all hell broke loose, yet the silence of the board directors provided the answer. When countless individual units are acting according to their own principles, no human will, even the top guns of the IPC, can turn the tide. The Enigmata shrouds the universe, drawing hidden traces in the stars, a string of footprints of organic life. They walk on the path of the Trailblaze, forming groups and embedding themselves into the mechanical city. In front of them, a huge machine sleeps. Its face is quiet as tiny beings reach out their trembling hands. They are armed with gloves and gas masks, unable to comprehend the flow of the abstract, and can only feel its presence through touch. It is broken yet holds a solemn face. Its massive shell bears the marks of war, and the symbols on its back are far more tragic than the war itself. It is the Inorganic Legion's Emperor, or Faith, itself. After it falls into a deep slumber, the Machine Empire also falls into ruin. A chuckle burrows into your mind. It's them, Aha and the Enigmata, who join in this bleak scenery. What made them so happy? The second moment that Nous predicted arrives. Genius Society member number 27, Rubert the Emperor, rises from slumber. When it wakes, the dawn of the Machine Empire descends once more. Countless machines rise from the ashes. Their wills erupt, their souls roaring, even if they have no idea if the wills and souls belong to them. But what is self to inorganic beings? The moment the Emperor awakens, the inorganic lives implanted with the anti-organic equation will be activated. There is no reason, no compromise. No one has the right to ask why. Why does its awakening bring more eternal sleep? Why is he so sacred, yet wants to change the world through destruction? What has it been through? Has it ever pondered just as organic life does? Iron, rust, blood, these concepts rush into your mind. Rubert, is this the lone path you have determined to travel since you became a genius? The path ahead holds nothing but screams and howls. Some of the voices are filled with happiness and others seem like hell. You can pretend they do not exist. As long as you pretend, the world is real. As long as you pretend, the world is real. Just before the end of the Border Star trade war, a mechanized mercenary attends a banquet. Guests chat about the latest happenings at the border. A scholar is trembling about this not being one of the moments calculated by Nous. Everyone freezes amidst icy judgment. The created become the creators, and the creators become the created. The scent of enigmata lingers in the wind, carrying a voice from afar, wiping away ineffective uses of language. The anti-organic war has erupted. On Dwayne's planet Cyprogo, the mechanical overlords start eliminating the organic lives on the planet and effortlessly demolish skyscrapers beneath their feet. There were remote areas that weren't impacted for some time, and a husband and wife shared bowls of rice. The wife is a robot, but the husband is human. He claims to be a machine, and when the anti-organic equation is activated, the wife murders the husband. As such, Dwayne's subordinates conclude that even machinery that had been given the human appearance and had bonded with the organic lives for a long time could join the war under the calculations of the anti-organic equations. Then they discovered the equation was also found in some organic lives who had come from fringe planets to plunder resources. The equation was a simulation that did not follow thoughts, but altered them. You encounter Polka Kakamond once again. She looks at you with an expressionless face, hair gathered into a bun, earrings swaying amid gunfire. Without a word she waves at you and you follow her candy-coloured skirt through the battlefield, and eventually you arrive at the base of a clock tower. She announces, Nous's calculations are unquestionable. When that moment comes, everyone must die. You remember that even though she killed you previously, you woke up the next day. Through killing, she grants an end to life or a rebirth. I have to kill it, Rupert. She runs a finger over the tip of the blade and says with composure, The moment for its dinner party is over and the moment of its death is here. I tried killing you many, many times. Before that moment arrives, you are unkillable, but when that moment is here, you have to die. That is the moment calculated by Nous. After the Border Star trade war concludes, the undercover representative of the machines remains hidden and witnesses to Laura carry out her schemes. Her guardians had been utilizing Planet Temptra's psychological manipulation skill to its fullest. Through an alluring spice-like tone, they intricately packaged the ancient outreach and engagement division's resistance against the inorganic lives as something else. Dwayne lost his mind for unknown reasons. Koropow is found hanging after being deserted by his family and friends, and Fansha places a white flower by his grave. Over time, the Guardians are gone and replaced by new big shots. The undercover agent keeps waiting for the Emperor's divine edict. One masked fool named Anditor Zazalo gives a funeral speech for another dead Anditor Zazalo. You realize the Anditor Zazalo you have crossed paths with many times will perish in this war. Was he your companion? Who can counter the calculations of the erudition? It can be the enigmata or the remembrance, but nothing is guaranteed. In your journey ahead, there will be numerous masked fools who claim to be Anditor Zazalo. They want to cheer you up, but you will be left melancholic. There is one who will die for you, and one to whom you will perish. The melancholy in your mind is personified, and you see a woman with closed eyes. She is ancient, as she has probably been dead even longer than the time non-organic lives have existed. She lies on her side upon a cast iron throne with all sorts of things scattered around her. Untold riches, characters that represent power, an hourglass that managed time, and an emaciated ferocious hound resting on the ground, waiting for its owner who seems to be in an eternal slumber. You know many things took place after the slumber, and it all started with the cast iron throne. Nous's figure takes form as data currents converge. They perceive you and you want to ask questions. Akavili is their answer. After the cast iron throne changed hands, the equilibrium tilted slightly. Gold, bricks, blood, energy, science, enlightenment, and ignorance flowed in trickling streams from the equilibrium. As a result, some lost their existence and some embraced nihility. You look up and hear the chimes. The sky is overcast and shrouded in a blood-like layer. Flocks of birds flee among withered flowers and trees, and fruits are left rotten on the ground. The third moment calculated by Nous has come. Polka Kakamond is there, and she raises a question to Nous. On the 17th chime, Emperor Rupert is killed by Polka Kakamond. In an encounter between two geniuses, she has ended its journey as well as the universe-wide war it brings about. Suddenly, Enigmata arrives, intending to shatter the concept of moments. The iridescent radiance is gnawing at your senses like dancing stardust, but you understand that everything is certain. This is their third moment, and Rupert is dead. It's not possible to stop this from happening. Next, you sense the presence of equilibrium, and with their ancient dominance, they make things right with utmost precision and no deviation, only slightly affecting the angle at which the robot's chest is incised with the scalpel. It's not possible to stop Rupert from dying. You look up at the gargantuan figure of Rupert whose ankle is nearby. Its melancholic and biting aura prevents you from coming any closer. Amid the frigid mist, the metal emits a glow that cannot be obscured by any war. You look into its eyes. In an instant, you see everything in the world dissipate. The world awakens, sleeps, revives, and then collapses. Everything occurs as if fated and cannot be reversed. When the last speckle of dust falls on the ground, it signals the end of the third moment. A thunderous noise comes from the sky as something enormous collapses, followed by countless factories, machines, and massive empires behind it. An invisible force destroys the world and doomsday has come. There is nowhere to hide. Rupert's time has passed and the rumbling of machines has faded into history, leaving only a sigh and the thwarted anti-organic equation. With the end of the organic war, the political power behind the famous Polka Kakamon is revealed. Dongfang Qixing kept everything in control through omens. None that happened can escape his grasp. After the war, nothing was left, and it was meaningless. Survivors, both organic and inorganic, returned to a long-awaited peaceful life. Yet, most of them spent the rest of their life in destitution and trauma. Equal pain returned to their dreams on countless nights. Sometimes they were as dim as candle lights. Other times they jumped out and almost took on a human form, turning into a mysterious creature. Those mysterious candle lights weaved around within their bones and blood vessels. They could feel their blood filling with venom that was being transferred to their limbs, hearts, and brains. At an unknown time, the successor of Emperor Rupert's will, Gaius the Usurper, is assassinated by the Galaxy Rangers via unknown means. Sometime after Rupert's death, the Second Rupert Rebellion takes place under Rupert II. He claimed to have inherited the memories of Emperor Rupert and initiated the second cosmos-spanning anti-organic Emperor's War. At the end of the conflict, the IPC spent vast amounts of credits to repeatedly appraise his remains, leading to the dreadful conclusion that Rupert II was a being of flesh and tissue. After the Second Rupert Rebellion, the IPC planned a brutal extermination of all mechanical life across the cosmos. Before the plan was passed, Skrullum was selected by Nous to join the Genius Society. The IPC then made the mechanical cuckoo clock as a gift to appease the new genius. In an era when mechanical beings were being persecuted, this mechanical cuckoo clock itself is a symbol of peace. After the second machine crisis, many robots became sensitive to any possible conflict. A rumor claiming that mechanical lifeforms would bring about the final disaster immediately drew the attention of all robots, and they formed an expedition team to scout unexplored lands 3 times. They reached the island at the southernmost top of the land and dragged out the rumor's creator from a forest enveloped in utter darkness, a master artisan who hid in the mountains to study evil technology. Many years in the future, a story is recounted by a history fictionologist. A few years after Rupert's death, a human visited the grave of Rupert and solved the anti-organic equation, or the equation had chosen him. He did not share or activate the equation. Death was an inevitability when it was activated. From that moment on, he would have increasingly uncontrolled and intense bad thoughts in his mind. They existed in his mind and more frequently also in his limbs and torso. It occurred to him that all organic lives were artificial machines made for deceptive purposes, and he was the only one being with free will. He declares, "I must kill all these pathetic organic lives." At the end of Golden Gears, Skrullum asks if there are any traces of Rupert II in this dimension, and Ron May tells him there's no way because the dimension is too ancient. She also says that Skrullum cares about Rupert II, and this is certainly leading into an upcoming plotline, so keep an eye out for it. So that's just about everything I have to share about the Golden Gears chronology. Let me know if you enjoyed it or if you have any additional thoughts. If you missed out on my Swarm Disaster videos, I highly suggest watching those too for more deep lore. You can even compare how much I got right before it happened. One more thing, I want to improve my audio quality, but it's quite expensive, so I opened a Ko-fi for anyone willing to contribute to my cause. Okay, bye!